Okay, so now I just want to clean this up. So I'm going to just tone back my layer opacity and draw over top and really just go for some clean lines now. So I will tighten up on the artwork a little bit. And I tend to think about this as just like, thinking about the line weight, kind of connecting the dots, it's already there, and quick sweeping lines. So whenever you draw faster, you're generally going to get a smoother line. And sometimes even a more energetic line. So you want to like fly through these lines and, still get some variation of design in there, but don't, I would say don't sketch them. It's probably up to you in the way that you draw, but for me, I notice if I don't sketch them, I get a little bit more effect to them that I'm looking for, and I tend to like that. So just kind of throw them in there basically. So work more with the extension of your wrist now, where before you might have been using shorter, more abrupt finger movements and maybe some wrist. This is going to be a lot more wrist, and I guess even the way you draw it could be elbow, but I don't use my elbow a whole lot with these type of lines. I guess if the artwork was really large, I would like kind of how a painter works. They do a lot of elbow in their pulls. And then obviously things that are closer to camera, like this leg, are going to get a nice heavy line, especially as they come out. A couple ways to look at line weight are you can either put it on the outermost curve of the edge, which kind of makes sense because it would make it feel like that's coming out towards you a bit more because it's curved outward. But then also the closest edges to the viewer. And then probably another way to interpret it even still is just the side of the shadow. But really, I guess that's kind of contradictory, or maybe not contradictory, but you're going to basically place shadows there anyway, so maybe you wouldn't need to think about line weight in that regard. Um, but yeah, there's a few different ways to think about it. I think I'll avoid doing too much interior work at this point. I still need to figure out where I want the placement of that muscle to go, so I'll wait on that. But yeah, so the other thing is line breaks. On the outside of the character, they're going to make sense to be a lot more connected. But when you get to the interior, you want lots of line breaks, I think. I tend to like that in my work anyways. It just seems to add more design to it, more opportunity for design. And I think it helps with ideas, like something about tracing every piece of the work makes it look very stiff, and then it hinders ideas for some reason. I can't really put my finger on that one, but that's something I've noticed as I draw more and more, that the line breaks actually help me to come up with ideas and create creative sparks, I guess, especially as it pertains to the rendering, which we'll get to that later, but it helps in that regard as well. So again, trying to make sure the lines aren't too overly even, that there's little bits of differences here and there. Some areas are thicker, some areas are thinner. Uh, I like what one artist said, and they said, keep the line moving, and I thought that was a pretty neat way to explain it. I can't remember who that was now, but it was just kind of a cool way to say it. Keep the line moving. Just basically, again, fight the urge to just make this uniform line over everything, because it's going to flatten the design out. So you could have otherwise pretty dynamic design, but then you put this same singular pass over the whole thing, and it's going to really kind of make it a little bit boring. And you see I'm drawing the shoulder in more boxy than it really is, but sometimes you can get away with stuff like that. It doesn't always have to be identical to the way a muscle is shaped. Um, I think that as long as you put enough curvature in there, then you might have a better chance of it reading properly. And then obviously when you render it, you can make other choices to kind of bring it together. But um, when you just make them basic plain shapes, they really stick out. But sometimes you can add in these cool little curves and angles, and make it just a little bit more stylized, and it's kind of forgiven, I think. in comics. But unless you're going for a very realistic style, then you want to study your anatomy intensely and really shoot for that. But I don't go for exact realism in my work. You can hint at things like those, it's kind of the bits of the ribs. And again, you can use these little line breaks to show different parts of it. And for the abs, I'll usually do like a little bit of a stylized kind of look. I can do like this weird kind of angling, which they do kind of angle anyways, but it's definitely stylized the way that I throw them in there. The main thing here is, to really condense them down. You want to show that they're sloping inward like a perspective like that, and it will help to, again, make the chest look more massive, make that insanely large hand start to hopefully make sense. Things like that. So, but hopefully you can see I'm really simplifying areas too as I go. So I'm adding in little bits of angle and design to it, but a lot of it's simplified, and that's kind of nice because these drawings can be pretty complex, and anywhere we can simplify the design and make it cleaner in a sense, really helps out. Because if you get too much in the habit of just over rendering every single thing, it can be time intensive. I love rendering, and rendering is probably my favorite part of drawing this stuff, but you got to be careful with it. Like, too much of even a good thing is a bad thing, right? So you gotta really pick and choose how much you do with that. So simplifying can really help you out. It can definitely help you meet deadlines and things like that. So, and there's a certain amount of cleanliness you get to the work by simplifying, so that's nice as well. And I think we all have to just vary up the intensity of our rendering and our shapes and our designs of the work, and really see what matches our style and our imagination, what we're really looking for. I think we're all capable of, a ton of different styles, but we have to pick what works best for the way that we create and what our goals are. Okay, so here I want to try to fix this if I can, but I might just hopefully solve it with these heavy lines to make it make sense visually that way. So let's try some nice big lines up here to really show that this is coming out towards camera or the viewer. Let's bring this back in a little more. And again, this is our tricep. I want to really condense this inward so that it looks like it connects properly to the shoulder, or under the shoulder, I should say. I think I'll bring this line up. And with the fist here, I think I need to bring in this knuckle a bit further. So again, even though I'm just really in a cleanup stage, I'm still trying to just make incremental changes and hopefully fix whatever I can. I think the other benefit of trying to fix things but then still progressing, like for instance, you notice I'm not sketching anymore and trying to fix things. I'm trying to fix things as I clean up the work. I think that's a big part of being able to complete work, because if you just keep, saying, well, I'll just redraw it until it's right, I'll redraw it until it's right, that can eat up a lot of time in your schedule. So you have to kind of keep moving forward, and I think this helps to do that. So you're still adjusting the work and making changes, but you're also getting closer to the end result based on the process. So you'll see a lot of people that get really good at constructing some basic line work and then going right to inks. And that's just amazing to me. It's like something I really need to hone my own skills at better. And we should all strive for that because, you know, you got to figure those artists don't have problems with deadlines because they're so used to inking off rough sketches or finalizing their sketch rather quickly, you know, and moving it on to an inker or something like that. So there's a lot to be said for that, but I do tend to want to refine things a bit more. I'll get these little wrinkles in of the fingers, something like that. You know, you could throw little lines in there, even though this isn't going to be, he's going to be wearing a glove. I'll put like a little line just to show the depth of the thumb there so it doesn't look so flat. Okay, so there's most of that, you know, the base line work or whatever. Get in some for the cape here. Something like that. This looks a bit off. Let me see here. So the neck, sternocleidomastoid, comes down from the ear, points down to the center of the chest. I get pretty thin, and you'll get kind of a little V there, and you get kind of a U here. The body's really just a bunch of alphabets. And then we want to bring this jaw out just a little bit more so it's not a tangent with the neck. And the jawline points to the ear. I still haven't figured out the design of this, so I'm actually going to just do this perimeter shape. So I want to design the character's face next. These are the tough curves for me whenever I have to draw to the side. So you'll see me do those a couple times. Get it right. Now, if you are working traditionally, a little trick for that is you glance over the area multiple times, kind of like this, and then you draw it. So you'll see a lot of traditional artists do that because just you're doing the same thing, really. You're just doing it in a different process, but it really does work. So like for instance, if I wanted to do this line here, I might ghost over it a couple times, and then I've got a lot better chance, even though that was pretty poorly done. I needed to get this compound curve in there that I want to see. But again, just kind of glance over it a few times, get the muscle memory going, and then go for it. Okay, and I think I want to bring this cape lower. Something like that. Okay, let's pan back and see where we're at. And I'll still adjust and add more line weight here and there, especially after I see it from a distance. But that's got it cleaned up a little bit more and a step closer to what I'm looking for. Okay, so now we're going to proceed to the next lesson, and we're going to go ahead and design a suit for this character. So with that, let's move on.